What is hydraulic fracturing, or fracking? Since the Industrial Revolution, our energy consumption has risen unceasingly. The majority of this energy consumption is supplied by fossil fuels like coal or natural gas. Recently, there's been a lot of talk about a controversial method of extracting natural gas, hydraulic fracturing, or fracking. Put simply, fracking describes the recovery of natural gas from deep layers inside the earth. In this method, porous rock is fractured by the use of water, sand, and chemicals in order to release the enclosed natural gas. The technique of fracking has been known since the 1940s. Nonetheless, only in the last 10 years has there been quite a fracking boom, especially in the USA. This is because most conventional natural gas sources in America and on the European continent have been exhausted. Thus, prices for natural gas and other fuels are rising steadily. Significantly more complicated and expensive methods, like fracking, have now become attractive and profitable. In the meantime, fracking has already been used more than 1 million times in the USA alone. Over 60% of all new oil and gas wells are drilled by using fracking. Now, let's take a look at how fracking actually works. First, a shaft is drilled several hundred meters into the earth. From there, a horizontal hole is drilled into the gas-bearing layer of rock. Next, the fracking fluid is pumped into the ground using high-performance pumps. On average, the fluid consists of 8 million liters of water, which amounts to about the daily consumption of 65,000 people, plus several thousand tons of sand and about 200,000 liters of chemicals. The mixture penetrates into the rock layer and produces innumerable tiny cracks. The sand prevents the cracks from closing again. The chemicals perform various tasks. Among other things, they compress the water, kill off bacteria, or dissolve minerals. Next, the majority of the fracking fluid is pumped out again. And now the natural gas can be recovered. As soon as the gas source is exhausted, the drill hole is sealed. As a rule, the fracking fluid is pumped back into deep underground layers and sealed in there. However, fracking is also associated with several considerable risks. The primary risk consists in the contamination of drinking water sources. Fracking not only consumes large quantities of fresh water, but in addition the water is subsequently contaminated and is highly toxic. The contamination is so severe that the water cannot even be cleaned in a treatment plant. Even though the danger is known and theoretically could be managed, in the USA already sources have been contaminated due to negligence. No one yet knows how the enclosed water will behave in the future, since there have not yet been any long-term studies on the subject. The chemicals used in fracking vary from the hazardous to the extremely toxic and carcinogenic, such as benzol or formic acid. The companies using fracking say nothing about the precise composition of the chemical mixture. But it is known that there are about 700 different chemical agents which can be used in the process. Another risk is the release of greenhouse gases. The natural gas recovered by fracking consists largely of methane, a greenhouse gas which is 25 times more potent than carbon dioxide. Natural gas is less harmful than coal when burned, but nonetheless, the negative effects of fracking on the climate balance are overall greater. Firstly, the fracking process requires a very large consumption of energy. Secondly, the drill holes are quickly exhausted, and it's necessary to drill fracking holes much more frequently than for classical natural gas wells. In addition, about 3% of the recovered gas is lost in the extraction and escapes into the atmosphere. So how is fracking and its expected benefits to be assessed when the advantages are balanced against the disadvantages? When properly employed, this technique offers one way in the short to medium term to meet our demand for lower-cost energy. But the long-term consequences of fracking are unforeseeable, and the risk to our drinking water thus should not be underestimated.
Joined in the studio by a man nicknamed the Frack Master, Edwin Lowe. He's the Chief Executive of Texas-based Gasolot Corporation, and he's renowned for his unapologetic support of fracking. Also joining us is Lynn from the anti-fracking group Go Frack Yourself. Welcome to you both. Let me start with you, Edwin. There's been a lot of excitement in the country over the last week about the oil find somewhere below Gatwick Airport and 100 billion potential barrels of oil. Is this true?
There's no question there's a lot of oil down there. To give you an idea, the North Sea is a 40 billion barrel producer and Saudi Arabia is a 65 billion barrel producer. That makes it the biggest find onshore on this planet.
But is it a game changer for Britain potentially?
It would be if there were 100 billion barrels, and quite frankly, if there are just 10% there, that is 10 billion barrels, which is a game changer.
Lynn, does that delight or horrify you?
It's horrific. I mean, we would be derogating from our responsibilities under the Climate Change Act if we were to extract these reserves. But the point here, and this is the elephant in the room, is that there's no guarantee of how this will be extracted and there's no guarantee how we are going to extract these reserves. But more than that, 2/3 of known reserves need to stay in the ground according to the IPCC. These are global scientific community. Climate change is what we need to be tackling here, and it can be tackled if we go for fracking.
Edwin?
Well, I think with climate change, whatever level you believe it, they're creating quite the bogeyman. There has been plenty of science that disproves the level of climate change that they want you to believe, and the reality is they would like you to have the ability to fly to go see a grandma in a country, be able to travel to the USA, go to Spain on holiday.
So you're a climate change denier?
I'm not a climate change denier. I'm a climate change denier at the level that they claim it exists at. Yes.
We go with global scientific opinion and also public opinion. There are 200 anti-fracking groups in this country, very conscious of climate change, very conscious of food poverty, and they won't allow this industry to take a hold in this country.
But what about energy security? Even the Royal Society and the Royal Academy of Engineering have said that fracking is okay under the right regulation. So why not go ahead with it if it is done properly, because it will give this country energy security and independence?
Energy security and independence is going to come from renewable energy. It's also going to be cheaper, so we can going to have energy security for people who are on prepayment meters and people struggling with food poverty in this country. Thousands of preventable winter days, and what we need to do is really recognize our resources. So if we are looking at the public opinion, 68% of the country want energy to come back under public control, as many also want renewable energy, and this is a sustainable future. Why are you talking about an industry that doesn't exist when we can invest an industry that does exist?
7% of power generation in this country comes from renewable energy. That's 1.7 hours a day. Which 2 hours do you want to run this country on? Which 22 hours do you want to steal from the rest of the United Kingdom? You need diversification. You are putting your eggs in a natural gas basket. You are bringing in Qatari gas. You are bringing gas from Russia. You have had blackouts. You have had the gas turned off in the UK. You cannot displace coal, nuclear, and natural gas with renewable energy.
Wind power sustained us through those blackouts.
But isn't this the point also that we don't have space in this country?
I'm not saying to bring Dallas to success. What I'm saying is fracking has been done safely in the United States 1.5 million times since the 40s. These are the undisputed facts. I know they don't like those facts. They want to sell fear, but those are the facts.
But isn't your enemy here cheap oil, because that has completely undermined the trucking industry?
Well, it has caused uneconomical heirs in the United States. Sure, will this create a challenge here? Absolutely. But the reality is, you're still going to get the oil and the natural gas from somewhere. Why don't we create these jobs and utilize the resource of the United Kingdom first and foremost?
Isn't that something you both have in common, because your enemy is also cheap oil, because that means less investment in renewable energy?
The enemy is climate change, the enemy is full poverty. It's about having democratically controlled energy. It's about having a more sustainable use of energy as well. Well, what we need to be conserving energy. We need to be insulating homes, and we need to be using far less energy. I mean, I just don't understand why Edwin is trying to promote an industry that doesn't exist and is already in construction in US. It's been banned in the birthplace of fracking.
Sorry, we have run out of time and I have to leave it there. Thank you very much.
Practice before we do that.
But in the studio by a man back on.
We need to be conserving energy. Don't smile to me. We are enemies. Don't smile.
I need to disrupt
our
you.
face. That doesn't exist. And it's already in contraction in the US. It's been banned in the birthplace of fracking.
I'm sorry, we have run out of time.